your should time. And please don't get upset if I say now your time is up.
Yeah, that's
okay.
quite. I think I wish to complete before that. Good morning, everybody, and especially when I'm on the dais along with Dr. Banerjee, many questions rise. Those who are familiar with achievement surveys, because some consider as polarities, which we are not.
We like being on panels together.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, the video showed what are the expectations of students, especially at preschooling level. Now, I'll be interested in showing what exactly happens when children go to school, and though necessarily it may not give a true picture because standardized tests always have their own limitations. So we are going with those limitations and trying to explain to you what is the current scenario when it comes to schooling and the achievement of the students at different levels. I'll focus more on primary level, though NCERT has been conducting achievement surveys in the last 15 years all across the stages of schooling, including the secondary stage. As you all know that the achievement survey, at least those who are familiar with the surveys, we have conducted 3 cycles of NOS at class 3 and 4 cycles of class 5. So what I'll be presenting is the latest survey of class 3 and 5, the findings of that. And they are essentially sample based, though these days, I mean, we are making preparation for census survey. And then they are largely from government and government aided schools, though we have done survey at class 10th in private schools also. And it is done in 2 subject areas in class 3 and 3 subject areas in class 5. Apart from achievement survey tests that we have administered, we have also administered background information schedules through which we were able to get a lot of data. So this is I mean, largely the coverage that I would not explain. It's self-explanatory. And I'll directly go to the findings at class 3. And here also, I'll not be presenting the entire data because it is available on NCERT's website. I'll be interested in certain key points, which are very crucial. What we largely observe is that, especially when it comes to class 3, the performance of the children is quite good in the sense in both mathematics and languages. Quite good in the sense it comes to around 2/3. I mean, their response rate is 2/3 of the test, which is quite good enough. But as they progress, it goes down. And at class 10th, there was, recently so much of hue and cry how the children fail to perform even to the extent of 50% on an average. So these are certain issues. And more importantly, we have seen from the point of view of category, that is different socioeconomic categories in terms of rural, urban population of students, and also boys and girls, gender categories. What I'm presenting here is the overall mean of the students, and especially this is on a 0 to 500 scale because we have conducted it on IRT. And it shows that there are some states, especially like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and also, like Madhya Pradesh. So I am quite interested in these states vis-a-vis some other states like Kerala and Karnataka, so which have huge difference even at this level, maybe at class 3 level. So this is performance in terms of gender groups. You see that at class 3, there is not much difference even at national level or in many of the states, except for Kerala, which has been consistently showing higher rate of performance, not only in class 3, but across levels. That's one unique thing which is quite different from the rest of the states. I think that's very important. So why Kerala is doing well, many of us know, but still there are some things that we can explore. And this performance is consistent Then when it comes to rural-urban variations, there are not many rural-urban variations, especially at grade 3 level, except for some places. Though the national average is, especially is compared to urban, rural areas slightly low in reading comprehension. So these are the performances of the students under different categories, and you can very well see statistically significant difference is there across categories, and general category candidates are performing better than OBC, and this is statistically true because when it is done on large numbers, even minute variations also are also captured. And when it comes to the performance of the top 25 and bottom 25% of students, which is a very interesting statistic, what we see is that in the top 25%, the mean achievement of students under different ability areas is quite high, that you may see 88%, 96%, and even the standard deviation is low compared to the performance in the bottom 25% of the students, which is, roughly, less than half in some areas and slightly more than half. The standard deviation is also very much. So that means to say that especially the bottom 25% is the area of concern for all of us. So then when it comes to mathematics, again, the national average, the states which are, below and above, you can see those states like Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh and all that. Jharkhand, there is not much difference. So Madhya Pradesh, it is below the national average. And again, the states like Kerala, Karnataka, and all, they are all ahead of the national average, so much ahead. So even in terms of gender, at grade 3 or class 3, there is not any difference between boys and girls. When it comes to rural-urban differences, again, it is not there in mathematics. Then when it comes to the top and bottom 25%, what you see is again the same thing. The trend is no different from what you have observed in languages. The top 25% are able to do around 90+%, but whereas the bottom 25%, their performance, mean performance is almost 1/3 in some areas and about half in some other areas. So, this is at grade 3. Then, at for class 5, you can again see that the states like the overall mean is 241, and there are some states again which are quite ahead, like Karnataka, Kerala, and all that. But again, you see that Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and all these states, their performance is low. So then again, in terms of gender, you can see that especially at this level, the girls' performance is better than the boys' performance, reading comprehension. Normally people associate language learning more with the girls, and this larger trend also shows that, though it can be a misconception, but this is what data says. Then performance in terms of area, rural, urban, there is not much difference. And then when it comes to reading comprehension, you can see that the bottom 25%, their performance is much lower than what it happened at class 3 level. So in the sense, from class 3 to class 5, there is a progressive decline which is happening, because about only 1/4 of what the children in the top 25% were able to achieve is being achieved by the bottom 25%, which is a very serious concern. Then the mathematics also shows the same trend. the states of Karnataka, states like Karnataka, Kerala. Kerala is again somehow it has 230. The mean performance is 230, which is lower than that of this thing, the national average. But the rest of the states' story is no different. Then in terms of gender, again, though there is a slight variation and increase in terms of performance of girls, but largely in many states there is not much difference. Again, if you see Kerala, their girls are performing better than boys. In terms of rural and urban areas, again, at national level, there is no difference, and in many states also, there is not much difference. Then when it comes to mathematics, so the trend is again the same as languages, you can see, but it is about 1/3 of the performance of the students who are, whose performance is mentioned in top 25%. Largely, and it is less than that. So these are all the trends that I wanted to show you, and apart from that, this chart shows you the performance, the national average at different levels in the last cycles conducted at 3, 5, and 8. It shows that the national performance both in terms of language and mathematics is quite okay at the age in class 3. There is a sharp decline when it comes to class 5, but there is a slight increase again. So in the sense, how and why the children are not able to perform when it comes to class 5 is something which is a serious concern, and we need to focus on that. And also the decline, though there is a slight improvement to class 8, if you extend it to class 10th, then again there is a further decline. So that's also an area of concern. So finally, before concluding, I just wanted to say some things from our recent observation of piloting the tests from class 1 to 8 in schools. We found very interesting things. For the first time, NCERT has developed tests for class 1 and 2 and also administered them. This was something this was a very interesting experience. Though what we have presented in the form of quantitative data, it gives the learning levels of the children, but especially if we want to know pinpointedly why students are learning or not learning, qualitative feedback is necessary, and we should engage with the students. And in fact, that's what we came to know even in our piloting of tests in class 1 and 2. And administration of a test is an art, and I'm saying this, it's not a mechanical way of doing the things. So the child's familiarity to the people who are administering, and how you develop rapport with the children. So all that becomes very important, and child can respond or not respond based on so many things. So it's not simply the yes or no that matter, but there are many things. And involvement of teachers is indispensable, and as long as teachers do not get involved and very mechanically do, child may go wrong, or if especially in 1 and 2, the instructions have to be provided to the students, and if teacher doesn't have time or is not able to do, then it will be a great injustice. What child can do will also appear as if he or she is unable to do. Then students' performance will get enhanced with teachers' increased involvement. This is what we observed, especially if you are able to probe into how the child has done, why the child has done or not done, and if you spend sufficient time with the child in trying to get his responses, certainly the child will do better. Especially qualitative feedback is necessary for understanding learning gaps and making interventions. This is what is a clear understanding that we get, especially in administering the tests ourselves. A child was deducting 17 from 67. So 7 minus 7 he did very comfortably by drawing lines, and then when it came to 6 minus 1, so instead of drawing 6 lines, he drew 16 lines. So I was wondering why he was doing that, and then he deducted that from that, you know, with 1, and you know, he put 15 and then next to that 0. So I was wondering why he was doing all that. Then why I asked him, why did you do that? And after a lot of convincing, that fellow said, I borrowed. So it was not necessary for the child to borrow, but it's not a misconception. It is something which our system has not been able to address seriously, when to borrow, when not to borrow. And all that, you know, whether you have time for that, whether you have time to probe into those things to know what are the children's issues that you call them as misconceptions. So all these things are very important. And then students perform better if they are given instructions in mother tongue than the language. Yeah. So, which is a medium of instruction in class 1 and 2. Especially we have seen that, you know, though for the namesake it is English, which is the medium of instruction, the children were very comfortable in the language which is otherwise spoken in the school and also at home. So, when we wanted to know the concept of 0, they were not very clear when it came to explaining to them in English, but they were very comfortable in coming out and responding in Hindi, which is very interesting. And you know, it's not that children do not have knowledge, but we do not know how to extract that knowledge. So that's what was our understanding. And students' misconceptions are nothing but misconceived reasoning. So in the sense, they have a reason for everything that they do, and we should have time to understand that reason and, you know, try to mediate. Then when we gave test items which were visual to verbal or verbal to visual, they were able to do wonderfully. Then some abstract things which they were able to not to associate with. So it's very important, especially in classes 1 and 2, to focus on all these aspects. So from my experience and from my experience in the field as well as with the data, I can only say one thing, that, you know, it all depends on how we are addressing the needs of the children, and children are certainly ready to the challenge of getting a good quality education. Whether we are providing it or not, that is the question that we need to answer. Thank you very much.
May I request Aparajita to make her presentation?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to present on whether children are ready for school or not. And these are the findings from 3 states, which are part of the longitudinal study that CECED, ASER and UNICEF are doing, the Indian Early Childhood Education Impact Study. I'll just give a brief about the study. The research design is a mixed method study which has 3 strands. Strand A looks at uses survey methodology, and it's longitudinal in nature. It's trying to answer the questions on trends in participation of 4 to 5-year-olds and in the primary years, in preschool programs as well as primary. What are the levels of children? Estimate the district level estimates of school readiness levels at age 5, trends in participation of the cohort in primary grades, achievement levels of children at age 6, 7 and 8. The sample that is covered by strand A is almost 300 villages where almost 11,000 children are being followed. This strand has been conducted by ASER. Strand B uses a quasi-experimental design and also a longitudinal design. The objectives that we are trying to answer there is to actually understand the quality variations in different kinds of programs, whether primary, whether preschool, across different sectors, public, private and voluntary, to identify the significant quality indicators which are impacting school readiness among 5-year-olds, and to what extent are these school readiness levels sustained over time in the primary grades. We are covering around 75 villages in the 3 states. The 3 states are Assam, Telangana and Rajasthan. Almost 2,700 children are being covered in this strand. Strand C looks at the qualitative case studies, where in-depth case studies have been done of 9 innovative programs across the country. A micro study has been done, is going on to understand the phenomena of privatization in education. There's another qualitative piece which is being done in under Strand C, which is looking at decision making in participation trends at the household level. The methodology that has been used is, because it's a longitudinal study, we have done a baseline assessment of school readiness levels at age 4. Then at age 5, the children were assessed on the same school readiness competencies. At age 6, the children were assessed on learning levels, learning assessment at say age 6, 7 and 8. To understand, because we are looking at quality in, we are looking at if quality is making a difference, is quality making a difference. So we are also wanted to track children on whether they're being regular to the programs they're attending. So so quarterly trackings were done in between these assessments to understand the regularity of children in these programs. So without taking time, I'm going to go to the school readiness levels and learning levels among children. So how and what is assessed in terms of learning levels?